All right, hello again. Caveman here from eBay, and this video is just giving you some basic instructions on how to take and put a brad with a guide bar, not just a pin, on Artin cars. I did this one here. It was the first one, and actually it's the only one that I did so far as it goes, but I took and put it on the track, and I was kind of amazed. I had a good time running this car. It handled real good. It got great traction. It ran quieter. It didn't have the click noise that it was you would get from a regular round pin, and it gave it a capability of drifting a little bit. So how do you take and put these on? And this here car is, I used as my guinea pig, if you want to call it that. But there are some things that you need to remember in order to take and do something like this. And the chassis, the body itself, okay, is going to make the difference on what you can or can't do with some of the cars. Some of the cars you may not be able to do it that well with, but most of them I think you could get away with it pretty much. Anyway, the first thing is you'll notice when the car is put together, most of them anyway, that they all have, most of them anyway, this here portion right here, okay? Well, the Camaro has it on it, all right? And so I picked up one, just the body, all right? And that's where, where it's at and stuff. But take the body off the car, because you're going to need to, and ease that piece off. Whoops, boy, that one's stubborn. Most of the time they kind of pop right out of there. This one's going to be stubborn, all right? If you take a pair of pliers, it would probably take and work a little bit better, and I don't have a set out here. Okay, there we go. And it popped out, okay? You can leave your headlights, in place as far as that goes if you're running, headlights in the car. Some of the cars don't even have headlights, all right? Now, the other thing, the first thing you'll want to take and do is you'll notice where the screw normally goes, all right? The one thing I did, and it made sense to take and do it, was cut it out. So I just got some cutters, just simple cutters, all right? They don't have to be fancy. We're only cutting plastic. But got rid of that because it's going to need that space for wire, all right? Now, so far, I basically took this here, the cover off of here, off the bottom where the front's at, and then nipped off where the screw goes. And why I can do that, because the bottom line is these cars, when you open them, even after you put the screws in there, most of these cars will set pretty tight, and they grab it right here and here, and that makes it simple. Now this chassis will move a little bit. It's a little bit loose on there, right? But it stays on, and I didn't have any problems with it. So each body, no matter what car you're doing it to, may make a difference on how much space you have up here. Anyway, so I'm going to pull this off and just give you a glance of exactly what it looks like. Well, it kind of looks like any other slot car, right? And in this case, all right, just like most slot cars, you'll see that this wire, this here connection, and this connection here, right? You want to cross the wires. So this black one actually goes to this side, this red one goes to this side. Now, could you hook them straight? If you can. But if you do it that way, it will go the wrong direction if you want it to be as other slot cars 1/43rd scale are. Okay? If you do it straight out, it will take and work, but the problem is that you're going to take and find out that you're going the wrong direction. Anyway, all right, so what I did is I took and pulled, I'm going to pull this here off, all right, and there's the screw hole, right, which you might end up using depending on the chassis that you've got, or the body that you got. That's the hole for the screw. These two here are designed for, regular pins. Now, what I did is, let's see if I can find it. I want to make sure I got the right size exactly. That's what I thought. Okay, just wanted to make sure. Should have had this out here. But anyway, in the center one right there, that's a 1/8 drill bit. 1/8. Okay. Now, because it's plastic, you can actually take and do it by hand, a little at a time, or you can get your drill, but you want to be careful when you do drill it, okay? Because you can take and stab yourself in the finger. All right. Now the reason I did that center hole was because of the axle on this car with this chassis. All right, that's where those axles need to set. Well, if I put it on this one back here, it would take, when I put it inside, it would take and actually rub the metal of the axle here. It was just too close to take and do that. So that's the one I had to take and go with. Now, after you do that, even before you take and put these wires on, you want to take and test to see if you've got that hole, if it's going to come up in there, and if it's going to go in there all right, which it does. You need a little bit of play. It's not supposed to be super tight. And let's see here, it's kind of hard to get that, but you can see it in there, okay? And you can see if I put it on this back hole, it would take and touch the axle. If the car that you're using actually has the axle up the very front, then you're going to have to come back to this one here, all right? Now, this here, all right, the brad that I am selling, as far as to take and show that it's, you know, designed for, or can be used on an Artin car. Taking hard to look through that screen and do that. Is made just like this here. They come in a 4-pack, and this is the one that, you know, I got from it. All right, and you know, I just took some time and I looked at this thing and I was like, well, how can I make this thing and work the way I want it to? So, you know, I can take and I trimmed off, all right, this here, and come over here and cut this here because I needed it. Whoop, I just busted that one. I cut too much too fast. Alright, I'll do this again. I guess nibble at it until you get it all the way across. But what you want to take and do is get it as flat as possible. And if it's like you've seen, if you cut too much at one time, okay, here we go. It will take and it can bust as far as that goes. Now, some of us use a coping saw, hobby saws, things like that. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Even when you take and do your plastic model sometimes. Now you can see there's the difference. I'm going to hold them both. And you can see this is the one that's not cut, this is cut. Alright. It made this here more narrow and flatter. Alright. So then I need to take and, you know that I can take and get it into the hole. And that's being ornery. Let me check something here. Make sure I get this correct. Alright, let me just... There we go. Alright. And this here, you know, it goes up into there. You can see where it comes up, right? And again, it all depends on where the, you know, lands as far as it goes. If you have to come all the way up to the front, that's good and bad, but you know, you get more of a capability of a drift when it's going that way. And when you're drifting, of course, the car is sliding left and right like this here, but your guide is staying nice and straight. So basically it's in there. Okay, this is just not the one that's soldered or anything. It's connected in there. All right, no problem, and you can pull it back out. All right, now what I've done here on this one here is I clipped the wire, okay, and soldered it right to the end. All right, so when the wires come out from the motor, all right, I actually just solder them on here. All right, and again, the wires have to be crossed. All right, if they're not crossed, they go the wrong direction is all. All right, so anyway, that's it for that part of it. Okay, that gets your, you know, your car as far as it goes. Now these here are not normally sticking straight up in the air. All right, normally, let's see if I can take this car here apart. Okay. As you can see, those are not sticking there. All right, now what I've done, if I can find my brain, is when I first started doing this, I was like, well, how am I going to do this here? So I took and popped it open, and I'm not getting it to cooperate for a darn. Get it up underneath the motor on both sides and pry it up. Alright, now you can do a couple things. First, you're not going to use these at all. Alright, so they come out. Alright, these both come out. Okay, right there is the white mark where the other guide pin is at, and if you put a screwdriver on top of it and push down a little bit, it'll push out. Sometimes it gives a little click and it'll just come out. Alright, so now you're free and clear here, and this car here is about the same as the other one was, even though the body style was different. Okay, so that part is simple enough. Now when you put your motor back in, you put it in upside down, and you can see that now the contacts are facing up, and it will make a liar out of me. Go right back in there and snap into place, because the top and the bottoms, it actually locks exactly at the same spot. So when you go to take and put your guide on, right, you're going to take and run these wires from here up to here, and you're going to need to give it just a little bit of space. Now as far as eye shot, right, you know, that there total length of that wire, all right. In fact, I'm going to get a tape measure just to make sure it's exact what I'm telling you. And my tape measure disappeared. Isn't that interesting? Okay, well, alright, so much for that. I'll put a note in the footnotes of this video after I take and remeasure it, but you're looking right at about 4 inches of wire total. Okay, that's before you trim anything and make it exact. But when you take and have it come out, you want it to where when it goes in there, it has a little bit of play. Alright, if it doesn't have some play, this could have less wire in there, there's no doubt. You could pull the wire back by the motor. But when it goes up onto the car, and the car is, you know, put together and stuff, what has to happen is it has to let those wires come out. If it doesn't let them wires come out, and when you put this on there to where it'll let it move back and forth, okay, you'll have a problem. Now, like I say, these wires can be a lot shorter than what they're showing. All right, but you can see why I pulled the black plastic out. That there basically just lets them wires take and run free in there. Okay, and also if I didn't take and cut off the stud where the screw goes in, those wires would go up against it. Is it impossible to have that? Do you have to take and cut that off as far as it goes? Not necessarily. I cleared it because it was an experiment that I was working on, and I just wanted to see what I could take and do. Anyway, it's not something that the regular slot person might take and do, but a person that's watched the video and said, yep, I can do this or do that, you know, you shouldn't have any real problems if you've worked with stuff like this before. I thank you for watching. Hopefully this helps, and that's it. Thank you. Bye now.